Hello, guys. Bolt here with another My Thoughts. This time we're gonna go over DC U versus the MCU. So basically, this is James Gunn's DC. And also I'll talk a little bit about Snyderverse as well. Versus the Kevin Feige MCU. Straight off the bat, they're both horrible. Everyone's burnt out. And the issue is they're not really doing anything to innovate or make it good. Very few times will a hero's name bring stuff in. Like if they make another Iron Man, people are there for it. Spider Man, people are there for it. With DC, it's Batman, Superman, and I think that's it actually. Well, Peacemaker and Suicide Squad get a lot of and then Creature Commandos. Just because that's the stuff that like it was tested but went well. Um, so going over just both, MCU has a better build in terms of how they do their things. Um, Most than not, they hit it out of the park. But the issue is Kevin Feige's versus James Gunn's. Um, Definitely Kevin Feige does better because he has most of the projects or characters people already know about or pre-existed in another project. So you lay it out to where it's just like, okay, you get, your first thing is Iron Man, Captain America, all these well-known heroes to eventually get to Avengers. And then little by little, you start being like, well, here's a movie about so and so. Here's a little series about so and so. That way, these characters get expanded upon. There's more, like Guardians of the Galaxy. Um, but then you look at DCU where it's all the like very few of the mainstays are actually getting like targeted. Who the heck wants a Jimmy Olsen story unless it's literally gonna be a Superman series with in their perspective of Jimmy Olsen, which unless that's how it's gonna be, it sucks. No one wants an Amanda Waller show. No one wants um to like slowly get retold, even though like everyone was hoping this be a lived-in universe for DC, and we're getting another Origins or like early on Diana, and it's like we don't need that unless you're literally giving us the Amazons without Diana. Um, and the whole thing with Batman, where it's just like you're getting Robert Pattinson live out its life before we ever get a Brave and the Bold, where I have big issues with is because it sounds like they're trying to set up Batman in his 30s or 40s when we have a 20 to early 30s Superman. It's kind of like, so we have the old man in the house versus these younger people. Um, but then you have like all these other people that are getting highlights, and it's getting ridiculous with DC. DC in general, it needs to pick up the pace of the major heroes. Like we need our Flash, the Lanterns. That like based on what I saw, it looks like it's gonna be an issue. Um, because it looks like a very very basic series with a low budget. Um, And like that, I liked the idea of a Hal Jordan being a pre-existing hero because that's one thing I will say this universe could have done is you have your Hal Jordan being the mentor to your um John Stewart. You have say Barry Allen. Let's get Grant Gust in here just for a series. Him and not at the top of my head, I can't remember. his Green Arrow from the CW. Get those two in there because they're so iconic, and make them mentors for the new heroes, because it would be perfect to get a Wally West Flash. It'd be perfect to get a I think it would be perfect for an older Green Arrow to give if we're going by seed, like we're getting a kind of a semi reboot very similar to what we did with Daredevil for the MCU. If we did it for the DCU with the CW shows, I would definitely give Green Arrow's daughter, Mia, the title, and just kind of give her kind of a show up. Um, and definitely you could say for that series also, like, get John Diggle, have his kids be Rocketeer and Guardian. That way, like, you are having these mainstays, the Flash and Green Arrow, and then you have people that aren't so well known, like Guardian and Red Rocket, show up and stuff. And then I really think having pre-existing heroes um already kind of at the back end of their hero years is perfect. It's very similar to Incredibles, where it's just like you have heroes that have existed for a very long time, and there's some that are out of their prime, and they still are some of the greatest heroes, but yet they can't keep up with some of the either newer powers that are getting developed because some heroes are going to start crossing genes, and kids like Jack Jack will exist where either stronger multi or like god like inventory power wise like Jack Jack is going to happen. um and I think that's kind of something that DC and MCU does it, but there's also some lacking on their part. And the funny thing is, they're in the same company. They should be able to kind of like, oh, yeah. Um, Even though the funny thing is, The Incredibles 2 kind of didn't feel the greatest, so it kind of feels like the the game plan is no longer the plan by the second movie. But we're not talking about The Incredibles. It's just DCU. The biggest issue is, I didn't want to go on too much of a tangent, is just they have creativity. They have what they need to be great. But the thing is, very similar to like Matt Pat's way of like video production, you have to have majority of your content be stuff that brings people in, that people will want to see, and then every now and again you want your test or like the stuff that you want to release so that there's at least something different. That way you can spin your own stories and stuff. So for every like three main heroes, like it would be cool if we had a Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman to set up the trilogy, the Trinity, and then send out like Katana and others. That way you can have that background. Um, and then MCU, I think the biggest issue with MCU is uh, DCU is actually making it pretty good, um, loosely connecting stuff. Like, yes, you should make the world feel lived in. You should make them know each other. You can't just ignore somebody. I think they ignored that. I guess Batman knows Superman at this point, so it's kind of weird that we have a Superman movie that has an existing relationship between the two. Um, and that's kind of like one of those issues. But like everything else, where it's just like you can't leave out Guy Gardner, you can't leave out Hawk Girl, because it's kind of like they live in the area and they exist upon one another. And I think the only time MCU does it is if they force upon it in the Spider-Man stories. Spider-Man's in New York, so he's gonna run into other heroes. In the comics, they're never there for him, but in his movies, they gotta take up so much screen time and be the mentor character that takes over a lot of the main like stories. Um, And then the other issue is the whole highly interconnectivity. Like, yes, Infinity War and Endgame felt like an event because it's like all of this stuff it built to being like the prime of MCU. Uh, like everything, every little thing meant something by the end, and everyone watching those movies religiously was like, oh, I know what that is, and it was perfect. But I think they were trying to recreate that experience with everything since, because it's just like, oh well, this little show, you're gonna have to watch this to be ready to understand all of this, and it kind of gives everyone a traffic jam on if they even want to see this stuff, and you can't really keep doing that. So basically, to kind of like wrap it up here, because I did want to make this a shorter one, because I've been doing way too long of some stuff. So with MCU, definitely it needs to lighten the load on so many things, fix how they present stories, and then also stop with the same humor. Like, if we're having another Thor: Love and Thunder, no one's gonna watch that shit. Um, but definitely you need to kind of like stop the interconnectivity of the universe. Like, yes, you can, hint, you can show somebody up every now and again, but they should never ever take up most of the screen. And I think Spider-Man Brand New Day is the perfect-ish movie, because while a lot of the stuff I want to see kind of were sped by, stuff that I didn't want to see actually get stepped in the background, like Punisher. He was a part of the movie, but he was so little in I think it very felt like Superman for it, because it's like the main hero is your main focus in this one. They're dealing with life. Um And then with the MCU, it's just not MCU, DCU. It's just like, really, they really should have looked back at the Snyderverse. The Snyderverse knew what they were doing. It's just they hired the wrong actors, and they try to go too dark with stuff. Um, while like it's so funny, the DC is supposed to be the more brighter with a little bit of darker context, where like Marvel consistently got darker tones. Um, because usually like Superman and Wonder Woman and even sometimes Batman have the brighter day feel, where it's just like, everything is kind of going right. Every now and again they'll have a story that hits them pretty hard, but usually, it's kind of like your third movie, where it's like the first two movies, everything's going well. You might struggle on the second, but the third one, kind of like Tobey Maguire's trilogy. It's kind of like first one, yeah, we're meeting the big bad, but yet we're like trying to deal with the training of the situation, but we're doing pretty well anyways. The second one, getting our stuff rocked, but we're still able to do something about it. And then just three, sacrifices are needed, and there's tragedy everywhere. But like the villain is just so overpowering to our hero. That's kind of the thing that DC normally does, and Marvel's usually like, all right, here's a huge issue. You're losing somebody. It's very Spider-Man writer coded, is across all of Marvel usually. Um, because like of course every now and again they'll have a story where everything's going fine, but if you ignore the stuff where it's like plain life, or like they're supposed to have happy moments, because you can't just keep saying doom and gloom every single time. Um, but they're kind of like, your first two movies are horrible for the hero, and the Thor. So it's kind of like they have their third film, Spider-Man 3 at the beginning. They have their Spider-Man 2 it just flip flops the order. It's a de-escalation versus an escalation of how bad the hero has it. Um, so it's kind of like really the Snyderverse could like it knew that it's like, hey, we need our heroes first, and then we'll have our Suicide Squad and stuff. Um, and like it did well, you know, Man of Steel. Um, I think a lot of people liked the first Aquaman. Um, Wonder Woman did well, but of course, when you start getting into like they started overcomplicating things, or they wanted to get into their like they wanted to get their hands far in with like Batman v Superman, Wonder Woman, 1974, I think it was, or that weird one with Cheetah. That one, yeah. The Flash was just on the actor. That in like it was multiverse coded, and you can't do that when it's their first film. I know we are leaving, so it's kind of like it didn't matter. They can go about their day and go do that, but like it would have been nice to see like Captain Cold, Golden Glider, or, you know, something rather than go straight into the multiverse. And then we didn't even get a reverse Flash. We got a Flash like it's kind of like Godspeed, not Godspeed. It felt like the Night Metal, where like they have like the Barry Bruce fusion um that went evil. Um but it's just with this new DCU, what they need to do is kind of like I did kind of make a thing where it's just like you need to hassle the creator of the Batman so that stuff is just done. Get it over with. Of course, make it good, but like this script needs done now. That way, part two should have aired this year, and then either part three should do next year or the year after. That way, these next few years, Batman's done, and technically Brave and the Bold should be being released on the year off or the like immediately after. That way he gets introduced early as possible. Um so what I would do is kind of like have your Amazonian series kind of start off with Diana on the island and speed run her whole thing with Steve and kind of have her come back trying to like recruit for certain things um and to kind of get have her be a part of the world rather than retell kind of like Wonder Woman's first movie where he part of a war meets Steve Trevor, part of an island, you know, that kind of stuff where it's like Wonder Woman is starting to change into the open world. um the Lanterns really should have been a mentor with like maybe the end of Parallax where you know, John becomes the new Green Lantern. Um they really should do a Flash and Arrow series where they do bring in the CW Grant Gustin in their Flash. That way it's kind of like that extended team can exist and they can show up. Barry and Jay Garrick will exist in this universe. They have the Golden Age hero and the hero that's kind of just now retiring, and then have Wally West up in, and then have Green Arrow either give up his thing and have like Roy take over, um, or we should have a situation with Mia. And then little things like Rocketeer and Guardian being Don Diggle's kids. It would have been nice to see the guy with the hockey mask become Arsenal. You know, little heroes that are barely known or like have ties to bigger projects like Young Justice would have been cool to introduce in these seasons. Um, and then like, hey, when we do get a Flash movie, it's Wally West. That way, it's kind of like we're setting up a Justice League Unlimited kind of Justice League where we have Hawk Girl, we have Superman, we're introducing Wonder Woman with the Amazons, Brave and the Bold's gonna have Batman. Um, we have Wally West being taught by Barry Allen, who's retiring. I'm trying to think. Definitely, I know Supergirl didn't go well, but I think she should get her own like animated series where she kind of explores more planets and she runs into Martian Manhunter. That way we have him set up. Um, I'm trying to think who else I'm missing. Oh, we have John Stewart with the lanterns. That's nice. And then it's it. Wally, John Stewart, Hawk Girl, um, Wonder Woman, Superman, Batman, and Martian Manhunter, right? Because the Trinity, Green Lantern, Flash, Hawk Girl, Okay, yeah, 7. Um, and really with Brave and the Bold, I would halt what he was thinking. I don't want Damien this early. I would rather be able to say, hey, here's a small, like, here's 3 seasons of a series before we get Brave and the Bold. Seasons 1 through 3 are kind of just the years of Batman. Year 1 is more of not him being Batman, it's more him becoming a vigilante, trying to like muzzle his way into the mobs and stuff. We kind of see him learn into being the position of Batman, where the season 2 will be the first year is officially Batman, where he deals with the GCPD, um, and kind of like the first one's more mob stuff with a little bit of his villains. Like it would be cool to have Firefly or Bronze Tiger, you know, these littler characters. And then season 2 is kind of like the season where you start introducing some of the more powered villains. And then season 3, before we get Brave and the Bold, should be like hey, we're setting up Dick Grayson and Barbara Gordon as Robin and Batgirl in this season. We get way more higher. Like, it's been a year or two since season 2. That way, it's kind of like we have an older Bruce. Um, I would say both of them should be 16, 17. That way, it's like they have only a few years at Robin and Batgirl, but they can do their own thing afterwards. And then Batman Brave and the Bold should be Jason Todd taking over Robin as Dick Grayson goes to college and Barbara um, kind of is more of a partner to Batman than this sidekick. And kind of sets up like the as soon as you've made it as a hero, he actually kind of respects you, kind of lets you do your own thing as long as you're safe. Um, and that kind of sets it up where it's just like I think the next thing would be once they all meet up for Justice League stuff. Um, once we know Batman has that connection, I think it's kind of like the League of Doom would kind of be created to divert the Justice League, as Batman's next like big thing would be either a season 4 um or another movie, and I'd really like them to adapt a the riddles and the laughs, kind of like the riddle and the Joker war, um, where it's just like it, because everyone's made their factions out of supervillains. It's a city of war, and Batman can't keep up. He's trying his best. Um, we have the creation of Kite Man. Um, and I think the biggest thing that would have changed in this one is you do throw in uh, Death in the Family for Jason Todd, and then you have Laughing Joke for the crippling of Barbara. That way, Bruce has no help during this war. Like, probably the first 30 minutes, you see the Bat family doing well, and then you start seeing the development of the people, and I really think uh, the Joker uh, would no longer not have fun, so he kind of doesn't want Bruce to have fun, so he would kill the Barbara and Jason. And I think Dick would try to help, but very similar to, I think it's Batman Beyond. He the Joker has a an automatic weapon that riddles the Nick Nightwing. I don't know what I was doing there. Nick Grayson. Who the heck's Nick? Um, but it's like he's just starting as Nightwing, and I think the disco suit should be kind of introduced here, and it's kind of like well he's technically Nightwing and Brave and the Bold, so I think he actually no. The disco suit would be a joke in Brave and the Bold. Him with like a light gray with a very small symbol for Nightwing. I think the new 52 suit would be shown off, and it would be discarded because of Joker shooting up Nightwing. And then definitely having a Catwoman show up and be kind of the last, you know, partnership for him um, to keep his spirits high enough. And then end it with Tim Drake coming in, you know. That way it's kind of like you have all these people, all these main heroes have their stories, have them mentors, have these other heroes exist, have these other like street level people come in, and then you have the Justice League stuff, and then Batman, he gets to actually have a whole like arc of development, um, and we get to kind of see all the Robins and stuff before we just jump into a Damian where the Bat family is technically supposed to be completed by now with like little things like Duke, Orphan, and Blue Jay coming in at a later time. But those are kind of like extras. So it's kind of like we've already been through all the Robins. We've already seen Barbara and stuff. I feel like we would really like to see that in a DCU. But all right. Anyways, I'm gonna have to upload this, and then I gotta go play a game for you guys. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.